Hello and welcome back. Sean here, Mountains Garage, on a brisk Thursday morning. It's about 48 degrees here in the shop. I got about 27 layers of clothes on, just the way I like it. If I can just see my breath, it's a good day in the shop. Working on the 24 Willys Overland Model 91, is that what I said? I think so. And working on a little ergo stuff today. I want it to be as comfortable as possible, for what it is. Fortunately, my buddy widened the whole cab 8 inches, or none of this would even be possible. It's got some pretty generous 18-inch or so wide seats. These are Jegs bomber seats. I guess they're okay. They're fairly expensive for what they are. And they don't currently list covers for them. They claim the Kirky covers fit. Maybe they're made by Kirky and just sold under the Jegs name. I don't know, but they're already in here and this bracket's made. And my first thought was to change them out for like a forklift seat, which is one of my go-tos. They're $100 or less a piece. The forklift seat, they got a nice cushion. And I like to sit right on the floor. And they come with a slider and everything. However, my buddy accomplished something that General Motors can't, is the steering wheel is in the middle of the seat and everything's proportioned correctly. You sit in a late model vehicle, the steering wheel's over here. Doesn't make any sense. It's like they didn't spend a little time on a brisk Thursday morning trying to figure out their ergonomics. Couple all this info with the fact that I got this bright idea to put a T10, Super T10 4-speed in here instead of just building an automatic. I have the T10. I always pass it up for other projects. The last thing I put a T10 in was my Gold Nova. That was a Richmond T10, a nice one. So I think I can do it using the sheet metal that's already here. This hole was where there was an automatic shifter bolted, which I'll show it to you. It's a cute little thing. And if I was to put a Hurst shifter, which is just going to clear this, I have room to cut this out and move it over here a little bit, maybe run an angle if I need to, but I believe I got enough room by the thousandths to fit the shifter body here back from the tail housing. I just got to cut a new hole. And that's with a shifter that comes, a Competition Plus, it just comes straight up off the mount and you bolt the handle on here, which would work, but I have a couple Hurst Competition Plus shifters made for consoles where the offset is, and it would come out over here. I got to make a hole anyway, so it would be under the boot, but the mechanism itself goes over and up closer to the middle, which I think is what I want to do. And it sets me up if I ever end up with an extra TKO 5-speed. Those come center shifted unless, like my 55, somebody buys the offset to put it back over here. I prefer the center, especially this where the seat hangs over the transmission hump a little bit. I mean, your knee kind of naturally falls over there more. If I put a shifter right here, it's going to be one more thing that's not very comfortable. This has a nice brushed aluminum tilt column. I just put the tilt mechanism on it, which helps a little bit getting in and out. Considering it's this distance that causes me some trouble, and the way this is kind of roughed in, but I think I need to take this lip down. If you can see my hand, my heel catches, because I want to drive in my work boots. I need to move the brake pedal down anyway, and I'm going to fashion a clutch pedal in there somehow. I think I have enough room. I think I have enough room to even run a cross shaft and mechanical linkage, which is always my go-to. It wasn't until the Street 55 that I even considered a hydraulic clutch, because it has a good feel. All the ones I've ever driven up to that point, it's not the same feel. When I drive the 55, I really can't tell the difference. So recently I made a deal and I got a clutch and a brand new, like an hour old quartermaster hydraulic throw bearing and the lines and the master cylinder and everything. So if I need to go that way, I can, but I'm leaving open the possibility I have a box full of clutch linkage and Z-bars and stuff to maybe run mechanical. So either way, that's down the road. First thing, we need to make the T10 fit the transmission tunnel and get a shifter that's comfortable. So, one bite at a time at the old apple. So let's put it up in the air, take a peek underneath, and then see what we got to work with. Down underneath, I have a Muncie case mocked up. Give you a better look here. This is just a piece of flat bar and a shim, kind of holding everything close. And between this bracket that I think I'm going to run and the floor, I have a little over 2¼ inches across, and that is slightly more than what the shifter body is. And then with a hole, it'll go over, I can't really point, but end up in the middle of the transmission hump. You can see it's really close here and forward. And that'll make sense here in a minute as to choices I need to make. Sidebar just for a minute. This is a cute little automatic shifter I took out. It's nothing but a spring-loaded piece of flat bar and a couple of bolts for detents, but it's kind of genius. I think it's for a stock car of some sort, but you could go park in reverse before you hit the first bolt. Until you flex it over, you can't get around the bolt. And then you can get to neutral, which I guess would be there. And you can't get past neutral unless you push it back this way for reverse, and it hits the reverse stop before you can actually get into reverse. So, and then 1, 2, 3 or 3, 2, 1. In this case, it was hooked to a power glide, so 1 and 2 is not detented. So the only thing that would prevent you from overshifting would be the rooster comb in the transmission, but I guess it was cheap money. It's KRC. I haven't looked them up. Don't know what the brand is. I spent a couple minutes trying to get the body dust off it, and it's still everywhere. Boy, there's nothing worse than fiberglass and Bondo dust. He started working the body a little bit, and that dust stuff is everywhere. I'm wearing most of it, trying to rub it all off, but it was down inside every bit of this mechanism and in the rod ends and everything. Not a fan of body dust, but so this will go somewhere on the shelf probably with all the other shifters. And let's get back to what we were talking about, 4-speed stuff. This shifter is a brand new old stock. I believe it's a street super shifter. It doesn't have the reverse lockout. You have to pull up to engage reverse. But it has straight rods that are reinforced. A shifter bracket that it goes straight up off the tail housing and moves the whole body of the shifter up high to make these pretty much horizontal. These will fit in almost any muscle car I ever made. I've put them in tons of stuff. You got to make a bigger hole because your stock boot hole is up here, and now you're back here and you're a lot higher. It kind of moves it this way. So be aware of that. You got to make a bigger hole, but these are made and they have a nice feel to them. Short throw, really nice. Not gonna work unless I want to murder the floor that's already installed in the old Willys. It's just not enough real estate in something that small. So when I got this bright idea, I said, well, I know that the factory Competition Plus linkage kit goes, these have to point up, but they kind of dip down, all 3 rods, and the bracket you've already seen on the transmission is low. It mounts way down here where this one does. So the whole body of the shifter is under the floor. That is probably going to work with minor modifications. But I didn't have that linkage kit. Nowadays, probably back then too, been a long time since I used to go to the speed shop and look at all the stuff, and typically they would have both pieces in the same box. Somewhere along the lines, Hurst, or whoever owns Hurst, decided they're going to sell you the shifter. Then they're going to sell you the install kit. So this is a specialty shifter, so maybe this all came together because they belong together, but modern times now, when you buy the body, then you need to buy the install kit, and the prices are shocking. This shifter portion's $300 or $400, and the install kit's $300 or $400 minimum. So you're talking $700 or $800 just for a shifter that you used to be able to buy at the department store. I'm a collector of a lot of stuff. Hurst shifters is one of them. If I'm at a swap meet and I see a pretty decent looking, in this case, this one's been installed, but I don't think it's been run. It's not even rusted. Hurst had like a, I don't know, some kind of black oil finish on the steel, and that's all you got. Oftentimes, right out of the box, you need to wire brush the threaded adjuster piece just to get the adjuster on. And this is a console style. You can see the difference. Let's put it the way they'd mount on the transmission. If I'm sitting in the driver's seat, this one comes straight up, and this one's gonna offset for a console. This shifter is actually brand new, I believe. So it's probably gonna be my choice. And these lower rods, arms, I guess you'd call them, come in different configurations. This, I believe, is a Mopar shifter, but it would come in handy if I need to get those rods down away from the floor. It's straight. It's an option, and I make my own handles most of the time, but they have offset handles as well. The offset isn't as much as that, but it's a help. So it's good to have choices. So like I mentioned, I knew I have a lot of rods, brackets and stuff like that. Lately I've used a lot of them, building shifters for people. They say, hey, if I bring you my transmission, can you build me a shifter? And I've had enough parts, mostly because I don't use these. If you remember some of my early videos, I make straight aluminum rods with rod ends, right and left hand, so you can just adjust infinitely, and they have an excellent feel to them. I make the bracket that goes on the tail housing. I make the whole thing, and search my playlist and you'll see that. But so I had quite a few rods left over, which I started using just to get rid of them and whatnot. And this stuff, price-wise, like a set of the arms, the correct ones, when I first started messing around with Hurst shifters 5 years ago, well, seriously, when I was not feeling well for a while, I could only do small things, and I chose to do Hurst shifters and make bead rollers and odd things that just occupied my time. Good times as I think back. Here I am, full force again. So anyway, I'd be searching for just the right arm by part number, and they want $75 a piece for these. Then things happened, and this is where I guess you call it modern hot rodding kind of hits you in the face. We got to, step off another sidebar for a minute. I, and you probably do too, remember all the great horsepower and high performance companies, Hurst, for instance. As happens in business, they get bought out by different corporations. And on the one hand, I'm very happy they're still around. I believe they're owned by Holley, probably, or that group, whoever owns Holley. They're still around. They're still providing us with parts. But what you get nowadays is not what you used to get. This stuff here, made in America. You buy this shifter today, it looks a little different. And I hear, I haven't bought one, that they're made in China. Like a lot of things are. Like most all the Holley stuff, all the manifolds and everything, it says they're on the box, made in China. Not that that's a bad thing, because it's still American businessmen having them build it for us. I'd prefer if it was built here. We could go on. This could be a whole 2-hour episode. But it puts your modern hot rodder like me in a quandary. The Hurst linkage kit to go with this that I wanted, it's part number 373-3163. It fits a Tri-5 Chevy. It fits the early Muncies and the Super T10s. The difference being the arms. If you have a stud and a nut holds the arm on, that's an early Muncie, and all the Super T10s. The later Muncies used a bolt, and the slot got bigger in these. So if you have a big slot, they make a reducer to run on the studded transmission. If you have a small slot, it won't go on the big slot unless you got a milling machine. So that's the only difference. The rods, the brackets, all the same Muncie and T10. The difference is the arms. Somewhere around 1969 or 70, they went to a bolt and a larger slot for whatever reason. So this kit that I mentioned, the 373-3163, right now on the Holley website is $299. And it is oiled metal, which is fine. I mean, it's what we're used to. If you put that part number in on the old World Wide Web, you get this kit. This comes up more often than the Holley one. I don't know how they can list it under the same part number. They list all kinds of stuff. This kit's $65. So I had to get one to try it. Morbid curiosity, right? I said, it must be junk. It came in a bag, this bag, all the way from China, with all this stuff rubbing on each other. They're not individually wrapped or anything. And there's not a scratch on this, leading me to believe these are powder coated. Yet the adjuster spins. These were already installed on each rod, and I've never had a new Hurst shifter you could do that to. Usually it's covered in oil, and where they threaded it from the machine shop, they pretty much throw it in a box and sell it to you. These are actually pretty nice. So I can't imagine having any trouble with it. They look very familiar. I mean, the bend marks, everything I'm used to seeing, except I don't have to paint them or anything. They're already nice. All the hardware, very similar to what you get. I'm going to make sure this has the plastic nylon bushings, but I'm going to grab some of my bronze bushings just to make sure that not a weird size or anything. They have the Hurst style clips. They even included the style washers like Hurst does. I prefer a lock washer on like these bolts, just a traditional lock washer, but Hurst always gave you a style washer. They duplicated that. It has a little nylon adjuster to go through here to put all the rods in neutral so you can adjust it on the transmission like we've done before, and we will again. $62. And I think it was a coupon I cashed in, so it ended up being $50 and something. That's the arms and all. I mean, I can't buy any arms, the 3-pack, for probably less than $100. Well, that was 5 years ago when I bought a bunch of them. Nowadays, maybe I can, so I need to do a little more shopping. Again, it puts you in a weird space, but if everything's coming from China, why wouldn't I save $200 and maybe get a better product? So all the stuff coming from overseas isn't necessarily junk, and typically it's being ordered by somebody here in the United States. So as a modern hot rodder, I don't know what to do other than explore. I didn't buy 100 of them, but I'm going to try this one. So, hey, we'll both know. I haven't tried one of the modern shifters. I don't need to because these are still everywhere. The old ones are fully rebuildable. If it doesn't have the stops, all you do is drill and tap. The hole's already started for you. These are the over shifting stops here, so you don't break the linkage off. Actually, so you don't break the stud off the side of the transmission, which is probably why GM went to bolts, because people broke the studs because they didn't have the stops adjusted correctly. So anyway, I'm going to rip that shifter off and mock this thing up, and I'll go over the adjustment with you, but we've done other videos where I had the camera rolling installing the whole thing, and this video is already getting long, so I'm just going to slam it on there and be right back. So I spent about a half an hour goofing with it, and it all fit pretty good. I preferred my original Hurst clips. The clips that came with this $55 rod set will work, but given the choice of the two, the Hurst ones kind of fit around tighter and seem less likely to fall off. Not that the ones that came with it, I'm just snobby. I'm a hardware snob. And I also put my bronze bushings, well, Hurst bronze bushings, on the 1, 2, and 3, 4. I use the nylon on the reverse. That's pretty much just along for the ride. And if the nylon prevented it from rattling, I'm not sure you're going to hear it in this rig anyway, but all nylon bushings gives you a quieter ride, less buzz through the shifter if you have any. But the brass bushings give you a much nicer feel, so your choice, but the bushings are interchangeable. I'm just fussy about the clips, so it's really not a negative. I just have a whole bag full of brand new clips, slightly rusty. I have totes full of shifters outside, 3-speed shifters, and all these installation kits, a lot of them for 3-speed shifters, but they all have bushings and clips, so that was okay. I used the plastic adjuster that came with the $55, $6 kit on eBay. I prefer my metal one or even a drill bit or a center punch. You got to go through the 3 rods, but you got to keep going. There's a hole in the back of the shifter too, so you're really holding them all straight, because you can hold them all crooked if you only put this through the 3 rods. So when it's all the way through, it's tighter, but it assures you that when you're actually done and you want neutral, that everything lines up, and especially reverse is hard to get into if you don't have it lined up perfectly. Like that, it works good. There's a nice spring over detent, but my hand's probably in the way, but that's totally normal. That's to keep you out when you're just going for over and first. They give you a pretty heavy detent so you don't go into reverse all the time. So, first, second, third, fourth. I feel bad for this poor transmission. I've mocked up 100 shifters on it, probably more, and dry shifted it forever. It has oil in it, or it did until it all leaked out when my buddy had it. Another reason for using this transmission is it became a policy around here. If I trade or sell something away and it ends up coming back to me, I can't get rid of it again. Some stuff I did get rid of twice, but no more. One time. So this left. I had it forever, and then my buddy wanted it, and then he didn't want it, and I bought it back. So here it is. Now it's going to find a home potentially. Now the shifter itself is as tight as you're going to get. See, the 1, 2 rod runs underneath the reverse. It's tucked in where I have a clearance problem as possible. I see I might have some trouble when I was measuring the 2 1/4 inch in the floor that I have. I forgot about the bolts, so that might be a problem. But if I triangle this, I could probably go back to my straight rods. So this might have been all for naught. I mean, it shifts from inside the car. I'm not sure you'll tell the difference, but this is on here now. Another shifter that's complete. I like taking all my junk and at least making complete assemblies out of them. So this is a 264 first gear, like a 1978 out of a Trans Am. Super T10, 3 rings on the input means 264 first gear. All this information's online. 26 spline, 1/8" input. Turbo 400 size, 32 spline output. So, in my opinion, these are far superior to any Muncie ever made. The early T10s, not so much. They were 10 spline, 27 spline output, and nothing to write home about, but it was the first aluminum 4-speed in the Corvette in the late 50s. They used the original T10. It's not a Super T10, it's just a T10. They used that up until about 64-ish, when General Motors decided to make the Muncie. I'm tapping this is not a Muncie. And they made several versions of the Muncies. They did a wholesale change around 69 and 70. That's when all Muncies, fine spline input, Turbo 400 size, 32 spline output. All of them, not just the M22. Anytime somebody sees a fine spline Muncie, ooh, I got an M22. You probably don't. They're pretty rare. They're out there, and they're not straight cut gears. They just have less angle. So, old wives' tales. In the automotive world, a lot of the same stuff just gets regurgitated over and over again. So, in about 74, across the board, if it was getting a 4-speed, They got a Super T10. I can't tell you why, but they did, and it was an improvement. I broke a lot of Muncies. I didn't break as many Super T10s. Take that for what it is. I broke a lot of Muncies. You let out the clutch when you got a pretty decent slick on the back in a Chevelle, which is heavy, and either first or second gear is probably going to strip out. You bring a spare transmission, you change it in about 10 minutes, and hope to get through the night. And I used to think that was fun. Again, a smart move would be just put it automatic, build a nice street firm shifting turbo 400 and put it in the old Overland. I'm just not a turbo 350 guy, and Power Glide is kind of boring, one shift. I mean, you gotta have something to do, or at least listen to. You know, low to high is only so much fun. So now I'm just rambling. Let's finish up. I wish I had one of every Hurst shifter ever made. They used to be $5 or $10 at the swap meet tops. Now new, they're 75 to 100 and used, probably just as much. And that's not with a ball. I don't know why I'm shaking it at you, but the balls turn yellow eventually. That sounds funny, but this is a 80s style with the little clear logo, and the logo's underneath. Traditional. This one says push down, which I have a shifter you actually push down for reverse, which is kind of cool. I'm a fan of the little short one. Long ones really don't do much for me, but I guess if you're not trying to race it, you know, and you're sitting on the floor, kind of like, you know, cartoon style. You never know, I might use that. Time will tell, but anyway, on to the next problem. I'm going to see if I can modify the brake pedal and make some kind of clutch linkage before I even bother to try to put that in. And I guess I should do that before I make a transmission cross member also, because that is specific to whatever I'm going to put in there. So, all right, mocking up is fun. Have a great day. Later, bye.